on this glorious day. Make sure I'm not covering the speaker out here on this trail walking aura. Few things I wanna build on. One main topic, though, but you know how it go. You know that one bill is multi-dimensional. I want to touch on attributes. You know, supreme attributes, or just attributes, and the importance or significance of an attribute and what an attribute is. I'm currently writing a book on it. This ties into the book, actually. This ties into the book. This this particular frequency that I'm adding on to. So what is an attribute? First and foremost, when you look at the word attribute, attribute, there's a few words in there. I just gotta add that. There's a few words that's inside of the word attribute. Attribute is one off the rip that's just is obvious. All right, attribute and attribute are one and the same, right? So when everybody comes into this 3D realm, they're given an attribute. They're given a name. Name doesn't necessarily mean attribute. However, they're similar. You know, they're both similar when you look at name and attribute, because a name is a quality and an attribute is a quality. You understand? So an attribute is very important. Why is an attribute very important? One of the meanings of an attribute is a quality. Attribute means quality. When you look up, because there's several definitions that comprise it, but quality is one of them. Some may be familiar with the 99 attributes of Allah. And that's just one of many, because depending on what culture you're dealing with, there's 1,000 names, 1,000 attributes. When you go into Buddhism, Jainism, and all of those sects, you will see instantly that there's like 1,000,000 different attributes describing the all and all, right? So that's a show and prove. That's actual proof on how important an attribute is. So one of my attributes is Saint Messiah Allah. You understand? I got several attributes myself, but the main attribute that I go by is Messiah. People on the streets and people in general know me as Lord Messiah. I had that attribute for over 30 years. In this particular time frame, due to the fact that, I don't bear mind to death and none of those colonial tricks, but I'm just, I'm dealing with like the now for the people that's like in the now, so that they can understand clearly the importance of an attribute and what it does. So I have my attribute for over 30 years, you feel me? And I've been walking and talking supreme mathematics for over 30 years. So the experience, that's what I'm pointing out here. The experience of walking and talking supreme mathematics, that's what unlocks the attribute. That's the key to the attribute, because we know that a person can have, you can have 1,000 names, right? You could be calling yourself, I didn't came across, and nothing against the brothers who I came across with the beautiful attributes, because you come across a lot of brothers that be having strong attributes. So we know that in order to connect it, you have to show and prove. In order to connect the potential energy to the kinetic energy, you have to walk and talk it. Because what is potential energy? Potential energy is energy that's stored. When you look up the definition to potential energy. So what is kinetic energy? Kinetic energy is the flow or the manifestation of that potential energy, right? So we know that when it comes to a quality, when it comes to an attribute, you have to walk and talk it. Rather, if you calling it supreme mathematics, there's many different names, the 48 keys, there's many different names that people use to describe this science, right? So in order to tap into this science, you have to walk and talk it. It has to become kinetic energy. You understand? It's real simple too. Like, that particular part is real simple. You have to show and prove it. That's the only way you can tap into the power, the potential energy. These are natural laws, right? So an attribute is connected to a U.C.I. So what is a U.C.I? A U.C.I is a unique celestial identity. This is very important. An attribute, your name, a person's name, everybody has a U.C.I, right? So a U.C.I is a unique celestial identity, right? So we know that we come from the stars. That's been shown and proven. That's, everybody knows that we come from the stars. That carbon, when you research the atom and you tap into carbon to make a long bill short, you see that we're connected to the stars, right? So everybody has a unique celestial identity. However, it is on the individual to really activate that and understand their connection between their self and the stars. Because if the individual doesn't understand, then the individual won't be able to tap into the mainframe. If that makes sense, right? So the importance of having a supreme attribute, this supreme attribute, when you study your attribute, the attribute reminds you of who and what you are, depending on, what attribute you have, because rather if it's Saint Messiah, Yahweh, Lord Messiah, or Alpha Omega, Christ, whatever attribute, it all ties into the all in all. It's just each individual expresses the all in all in a unique perspective. This is what ties into the U.C.I. You understand? The unique celestial identity. It's very important. Even twins, God, triplets, no matter what, quadruplets, they all have the U.C.I, right? So that right there shows you how ill this shit is, God. And it shows you that this is also, it's a simulation. That's like also clear proof that this is a simulation. You understand? Everybody has a U.C.I, God. You understand? So that U.C.I is the show and prove to how it's the Fibonacci sequence, but it's really not the Fibonacci sequence, because that's a hijack. We know the real name of that. That's Mayat. For the adepts and masters, the Fibonacci sequence is nothing but nothing but Mayat. Mathematics, the roots of mathematics is the Mayat system, right? So we know that. That's common knowledge today. The root to mathematics, we know that mathematics is the foundation. You take away mathematics, the world wouldn't work. So the root to mathematics is what? It's Mayat. It's right there in the word too. Mayat is in the word. The root to it is Mayat. And that's profound in itself, right? So, like I said, it all interconnects. So to stay on topic, on the foundation, which is the attribute, it is very important that the individual taps into their attribute. Rather, if it's the name that you was birthed with, or if it's the renaming of yourself in this realm. Either or come on. Either or. But it's very important. It's very important because that attribute lines you into your power. You understand? It connects you with your power. We talking, there's different characteristics. This is why, remember, attribute means quality. So there's different characteristics that bring you into the center of your attribute. Discipline, research, study, but that all falls under application. The kinetic energy that I was speaking about, a few minutes ago, the importance of the kinetic energy, because the kinetic energy is the show and prove. If that makes sense. The kinetic energy is the show and prove. So just like, a tiger, in order for a tiger to be a tiger, you understand? It has to show and prove. Right? So, and that's with any animal that's in the animal kingdom. The mineral kingdom, it's the same law. Right? It's the same law. So when we're saying the all in all, that's what we're saying. If you're able to understand that Allah, God, whatever name that you choose to call it is the all in all, this is what it means. To be at one with nature is to be at one with self. Once you're at one with self, you're at one with the universal law, the all in all. Right? So tapping into that attribute lines you, it aligns you with the all in all. Thoughts, that's one step. The attribute is one step to point that out. It's one step with the attribute. And when I say one step, I mean there's more steps to come. I want to say sometimes the first initial step is a self-realization. The individual comes into the self-realization, and then after coming into the self-realization, then eventually he's given an attribute that fits his characteristics. This is why there's so many different attributes, God. Rather, if it's Malcolm X, these are all frequencies, mind you. They only call it attributes in the 3D realm. Okay, so why are you saying that? Because that's sound, God. Right? So under sound, names, there's a whole list of items that fall under sound. Right? So in this realm, in this 3D realm, that's what they calling it, God. In another dimension, it wouldn't apply, depending on which dimension you're referring to, especially if it's the fifth dimension and the fourth dimension. Let's just say the fourth dimension, without even going, so in depth. But the fourth dimension, the same rules don't apply, God. Right? This is why the 3D realm is so important, because this is the realm where you get your practice. It should be obvious that eventually the physical, or this avatar will go back to where it came. Right? But the intellect, the supreme intelligence remains. And the show and prove to that is when you go to rest or sleep. Yeah, that's the show and prove to that. Right? And I gotta state, this is only for adepts and masters. Right? So riddle me this, right? When you go to sleep, the key is to stay awake while you're asleep. Yeah, that's the key. The key is to stay awake while you're asleep. Because, and without even getting all scientific and going into different sciences, this example right here is just a real example, because everybody goes to sleep. Everybody has to go to sleep. So anybody knows, especially, for the smokers and the stoners, the people that experiment and things of that nature, before you go to sleep, and you never know exactly when you fall asleep, right? You lay down, and then before you know it, man, you're in the fourth dimension. Before you know it, you're in the fourth dimension. right? So a lot of us have no control over the fourth dimension. Yeah. Yeah, that's a show and prove right there for you, right? Yeah, so the key is to stay awake while you're sleeping. Just in case people think the spirit, because some people don't, some people don't believe in the spiritual realm. It's unbelievable. It's astounding to me. Right? So supreme mathematics, the 48 keys, all of that ties into spirituality, God. Yeah, actual fact. All of that ties into spirituality. Supreme mathematics is a is a myrrh. Upon self. The 48 keys is a myrrh. It is a spiritual tool that you use to carve out this realm, this 3D realm. Right? So tapping into that attribute. The name of this bill is the supreme attribute. Right? The attribute is very important. We know the attribute connects to the U.C.I. Right? Everybody has a U.C.I. The U.C.I. connects to a person's sovereignty. The U.C.I., it stands for unique celestial identity. Every human being has a unique celestial identity, right? So that connects to sovereignty. If the neophytes, adepts, and masters, they're familiar with sovereignty, right? So that connects to a person's sovereignty. That's why that's why the attribute is monumental, right? That's why the attribute is monumental. And when you look in contemporary times, and because there's another reason why I'm expressing this, right? Because I come from the era of, at one point in time, we wasn't naming our babies names of significance, like names that bear a monumental significance. Like when you start to deal with the Gregorian timeline, right? So if you're going from, it could be the 80s on up, or it could be the 70s on up. It depends on what particular punch, timeline that you're punching into. But I'm saying from the 80s on up, right? Now it's the norm now, so to speak, to name your seed something that's monumental, something that has greatness, something that means something. In the nation, we call that attributes, God. Right? And it's not just to put it on a nation, because other nations too, depending on, what nation you're dealing with. No nation is greater when it comes to these conscious pockets. No nation is greater. Rather, if it's moral science, the nation of gods and earths, NOI, it's all one and the same when you truly understand. Right? So yeah, God, it's very important, God. Tapping into that self-identity. That attribute, that U.C.I., because that's what connects you. That's what activates you, right? So, and this is why they kept the names away from us, to further add on to that in reference to the 80s, the 90s. And that other than the conscious community, I can get into, the timeline with NOI and Moral Science Temple and these different groups that came to bring the awareness. This is a long build. You understand? This is a long build, and I'm making a long build short, but at the same time, building on it. You understand? So there's a lot of people that played a role in this, to triggering this awareness. It's not just the NOI. It's not just Noble Drew Ali, More Science. It's not just the Phabicid Nation. Everybody plays a collective part towards this grand awakening. And God, it's written in the stars, God. Right? That's the iller part. It's written in the stars. Right? So, okay, so what's the point of saying that? God, we designed this shit so well, God, that it moves according to how it was written. So regardless to whom or what, this awareness comes, right? So this is why they kept the names away from us, to further add on to that, right? Because there's power inside of a name, God. You feel me? There's power inside of a name. I mean, unlimited power inside of an attribute, right? And this is why when you go into biblical texts, when you go into the Bible, God, yeah, you see a whole array of powerful names, God. If the student is researching biblical texts from Genesis to Revelation and even in the Quran, every book, when you read the book, no matter what book it is, the book of coming forth by day, they call it the book of the dead, but it's not really called the book of the dead. You dig? So no matter what book you read, it's gonna be different attributes and qualities because that's how you express it. So it makes sense. When making a slave, you gotta keep the slave unaware of who and what it is. You understand? And this is why our ancestors say, it's written in scripture that we're under amnesia. That he is under amnesia. Yahweh. Right? That Yahweh is under amnesia. He forgot who he is. Now, God, Yahweh, it's the same story, God. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, right? So if you're familiar with the 5% teachings, right? But it's not just the 5% teachings, though, right? That's not even correct by saying the 5% teachers all praise due to the Father. You understand? Because due to the fact that we know that Master Fard brought supreme wisdom here, God. Right? We know that Master Fard Muhammad brought 120 here. Right? And then when you go into Master Fard's history, you see that Master Fard wasn't even a created God. Because remember, they raised Master Fard. Right, God? Like the science is beautiful, God. When you truly understand when you truly know how to align it. Right? So when you truly know how to align it, you see, God, there is no difference between a 5%er and a more science temple member. There is no difference between a 5%er and an NOI. Right? And I continue to go on and on, with that bill, God. And that's the actual fact. Right? So tapping into that, like it is what it is, man. The 5% Nation laid a strong foundation in New York City, God. So when you're dealing with 120 is nothing but hieroglyphics, God. It is nothing but the Mayat system. It's the same thing. Right, God? It's the same thing, God. There's no difference. So I see today that I just see, not with everybody, but I see that a lot of people, I'm saying a lot too, they don't properly understand like the lessons and what was the purpose, of the lessons being brought here. And maybe it's because of bad experiences that people may have encountered with like certain gods. I know that comes a lot, man. I hear that a lot, right? I hear that, because of these personal experiences that people encounter with certain 5%ers or God bodies, whatever term you want to use to describe them. And that particular experience, separates them from studying the lessons, getting to the lessons and things of that nature. But truth is truth. Like truth is truth. But there is different perspectives, to it. But truth is truth, beloved. Right? So to deal with it in its totality, yeah, you have to deal with the root. All praises due.